I'm Kimberly Turner from cookingwithkimberly.com, and today I'm going to show you how to bake buttermilk tiger nut bread. Now this is something similar, you're going to cook it in a similar fashion to cornbread, but instead of using cornmeal and corn, we're going to be using tiger nuts. If you've never heard of tiger nuts, they aren't even nuts at all. They're little tubers that grow into the ground, and that's what they look like. They look like little wrinkly chickpeas, and they are nut-free. So they're nut-free, dairy-free, gluten-free, cholesterol-free. They are vegetarian and vegan, organic, and non-GMO. They're really great for weight loss. They're wonderful for everybody, kids, the adults, elderly, athletes, people with diabetes and celiac problems, and that's a wide variety of people these days. So what we're going to do today is make a gluten-free bread, and let me show you how I'm doing it. Now, if you want to know where to get tiger nuts, you can check them out online at tigernutsusa.com, and I'm going to tell you what I've actually used. Now, for the meal, instead of using all tiger nut flour, which they have a wonderful flour here, I'm using a tiger nut meal. Now, I made tiger nuts milk the other day. Make sure you check out that show. I'll have it at the bottom of the screen so you can go look it up. And what I did is I blended these beautiful whole raw premium organic tiger nuts. These are dry, but I soaked them overnight and blended them with water to make a nut milk. And when I extracted the water out of it after straining, you have this beautiful meal that comes out after that you don't want to waste. This is full of nutrients still and fiber, and it's great for baking. So instead of using cornmeal, this is a very similar kind of texture, you know what I mean? This is a little bit wet, however, wetter than cornmeal, right? So I've had this in the freezer, or you can store it in the refrigerator until you're ready to bake with it. So that's what I'm using today as my meal. I'm using buttermilk today because it has a beautiful flavor. You could use the tiger nuts milk that you made from the tiger nuts milk recipe, but I'm going to use some buttermilk. It's also going to react really nicely with the eggs and the baking powder and the baking soda to make this bread rise. This is gluten-free, so it doesn't have gluten. Cornbreads, you don't use yeast in them either, so we're not going to be using that system. We need something else to help leaven the recipe. So buttermilk is going to do that for us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to combine my wet ingredients in one bowl. This is 2 1/3 cup of buttermilk. Now buttermilk, you're probably wondering, is that fattening? It's not. It's only 1% milk fat. It's actually less percent milk fat than most milks that you are ingesting. It's low fat and a lot of flavor. It has a little bit of a tang to it, almost like a sour creamy type tang. Now I used to live down south and we like our cornbread sweet, so I'm using some sugar today. You could use sugar, regular sugar, you could use brown sugar, you could use molasses, you could use stevia if you really wanted to, whatever kind of sweetener you prefer. But down south, we like our cornbread sweet. So I'm just going to combine the eggs and the buttermilk together. I want to get like a nice froth and make sure that those eggs are broken up and combined evenly. Also, right after this, I'm going to preheat my oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. You want it on a nice high heat. Now I'm using a convection setting today in my oven, but if you don't have convection, that's fine. You could use a cast iron skillet if you wanted to. You could even make this into a muffin recipe and use muffin cups, or you could use just a cake pan, okay? But today I'm using this beautiful 9.5-inch Gotham steel deep square pan, and I can let that rise in there as much as it likes. This is oven safe, so it has an oven safe handle and stuff. I'm putting this in the oven to preheat now. If you're using a cast iron skillet, do the same thing, okay? Make sure it's nice and hot before you add the batter, so that's going to get things started. Now, since I'm using this ceramic titanium coating, I won't need to grease the pan with oil or butter. But if you're using cast iron, you will want to make sure that that is nice and slicked and greased. So my wet ingredients are combined. Set those aside. Let's get started on our dry ingredients. I'm considering the meal as a dry ingredient. I'm going to add it last after I combine everything else evenly. So this is 1 cup of this gorgeous tiger nut flour, and I'm going to pour this in here, and then I'm going to show you what a nice light fluffy consistency it is. So here you go. It's beautiful, light and fluffy. They take those dried tiger nuts that I showed you and they grind it finely, nice and light. If you want to sift it, you certainly may do so, but it's not really necessary in this recipe. So that's 1 cup of the fine tiger nut flour. I have 1/2 cup of sugar. I'm going to do a quick taste test before I throw this batter in the oven to make sure it's sweet enough for me. And now you can use half a cup, or you can use probably up to 1 cup of sugar if you really want to. I have 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Make sure those are sifted. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. I have 1 teaspoon of salt, and I have about 1/8 of a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. Now, you don't have to add the black pepper if you don't want to, but I like that just a little bit of fleck in there, and I like the flavor. Now, if you wanted to use something spicier like a chili pepper, that would be even more exciting. All right, I'm gonna give that a quick stir. Evenly combine that. If you see any lumps or clumps, just break them up. And now I'm going to add my meal, my tiger nut meal. This is 1 3/4 cups of tiger nut meal. And just evenly combine that with those other dry ingredients. Get everything mixed through. I also have 1 tablespoon of lightly melted butter, and I'm going to put that in with the dry ingredients and stir that through. Now at this point, it vaguely resembles a crumb mixture that you would use maybe to press into a pie crust. Okay, a nice light crumble. It kind of looks like wet sand when you're making sand castles. I'll show you the consistency. So that's what you're looking for, just like a nice little bit of a wet crumb. I am gonna add a dash or 2 of cayenne pepper, just because we like it like that. But you could even add spices to this, like cardamom or cinnamon or nutmeg, and that would be really nice too. Tiger nuts have somewhat of a flavor like coconut to me. It's a little coconutty flavor. These little tubers have a nice amount of a nice sweet starch, and they're very, very tasty. Really versatile superfood. Now I'm gonna add half of this and combine the wet ingredients in with the dry, just to make things a little more manageable. And add the rest. Buttermilk has a nice thicker consistency. That is beautiful. And stir that through. So this is somewhat of a wet batter, but so are other cornbread mixtures. You have to let this cook in the oven. It's gonna bake for about 25 to 30 minutes. So it'll have time to leaven, and it'll have time to dry out as well. So it's kind of like a muffin batter mix, and rightly so, you would be able to make muffins out of this as well. So here we go. This is what it looks like now. Okay. So it's quite a wet batter. And while my oven is preheating and my pan is preheating nicely, this is going to sit for about 10 minutes, just to hydrate the tiger nuts and get things going, okay? 10 minutes. See that? Okay, this has been sitting for 10 minutes. My pan is nice and hot, preheated in the oven, and my oven is preheated to 425 degrees. Don't burn yourself. All right, so let's pour our beautiful batter into our pan, which is sizzling. Okay, into the oven this goes for 25 to 30 minutes, but I'm going to start checking it around 20. You're going to make sure that a skewer goes into the center and comes out clean. That's what your goal is. And it'll have a nice browned up top as well. All right, it's a waiting game now. Look at this beautiful, beautiful bread. Now this is a very hot pan, I've got to be quick, but look how beautifully and browned it is. You want to make sure that a skewer goes into the center and comes out clean, which this has. I have a nice browned up crust. It even looks just like cornbread, doesn't it?
Oh, it smells delicious.
It does smell delicious. So I'll do it again just for you. Gorgeous, perfect. Not only that, this Gotham steel pan, super non-stick. I mean, the bread has actually removed itself from the sides on its own, and I can see that it's going to remove easily. Now, I can also cut in here, so if you can't cut in whatever container that you've baked these in, you will have to let this cool for a little while and then remove it before you cut, okay? But I'm going to leave this in here, let it cool for a little while, I'll cut it, and I'll show you how delicious it turns out. Okay, so this is cool enough for me to touch the pan, and I like my bread warm, so I want my butter to melt all in there. I'm gonna cut some out of here. I'm gonna cut this square into probably 16 pieces, so 4 by 4. It's slicing so beautifully. If you are crumbling everywhere, just hold out a little while longer before you start trying to cut. Man, this smells so good. It has such a nice sponge to it. I'm just gonna run my spatula around the sides just to make sure that it's released, which it is beautifully released, but it's always better to be safe than sorry, right? All right, since this is still kind of warm, be very gentle at removing the first piece, especially. The first piece is always the hardest to get out. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. Perfectly cut, held together gorgeously. So serve that stacked on a plate. Serve that with chili or a stew or a soup. This would be great for a snack after school. Great for breakfast. And look how easily and completely that is removed. A sweet, sweet baked cornbread. Now, I didn't use any grease or butter on the bottom, and look at that, just removing beautifully from the bottom of this pan. So there you go, look at that, beautiful. Aren't they lovely slices?
Oh, they're so beautiful.
Nice to
I can't wait to
nice
try
to
them.
stack. Would you want some butter on yours?
Absolutely.
All right.
What a treat.
I'm excited.
Oh, it smells so heavenly.
These are like cornbread, but better.
Yeah. Well, they look just so perfect.
Here you go. Try that, Mommy.
Thank you, darling.
Welcome.
Can't wait. Perfect for tea time, Kim.
Yes. I love it when the butter just melts just a little bit on there. Oh boy.
Oh, what a nice texture.
They're nice and spongy. Look at that.
Oh my God. These are fantastic.
That is good. That's so good. Light and fluffy. Little bit of sweetness from not only the tiger nuts, but a little bit of sugar that I added.
Oh, Kim, you can make these any day of the week. I love them.
They're so good. A really wonderful side dish, snack, breakfast. You can even eat them just like muffins. They're so good. Hot, cold.
Just like having a nice piece of cornbread.
That's right. Nice texture. They're not as gritty as a cornbread would be.
No, they're not like
Super easy recipe. You just combine and pour it in. Make sure you just have a really great skillet to use. That's it. They're light and fluffy.
Oh, are they ever? That's a winner, Kim.
And a great way to use up your tiger nut meal that you might have used to make the tiger nuts milk. Hate wasting things, especially when it's so jam-packed with goodness. So that's a very simple gluten-free bread. You're gonna love this recipe and you're gonna make it time and time again. Your kids are gonna love this too because it has that little bit of sweetness to it. So make sure you check out tigernutsusa.com for their flour and their tiger nuts and all of their products. They are wonderful and very versatile, super healthy, nut-free, gluten-free, everything you want it to be. All right, so that's it. That's how you bake gluten-free buttermilk tiger nut bread. You're gonna love this one. Follow me on Twitter at Cooking with Kim E with a capital E. Like the fan page at facebook.com/cookingwithkimberly. My shows are on iFood TV at my.fossum.tv/cookingwithkimberly, youtube.com/cookingwithkimberly. I have a channel on Roku, Cooking with Kimberly, and I'm also syndicated on Apple TV and Amazon and a couple other places. Come to my website at cookingwithkimberly.com and subscribe. Interact with us and let us know what's going on in your culinary world, all right? Be a champion in your kitchen and eat deliciously. Bye.